Welcome back to the
Wow.
Posscast, where we bring to you the cringiest RPG horror story straight from the sewer of Reddit.
Yep.
Yeah, we
Here
got
we
some
are.
very juicy, delightful ones today. So, would you
Yep.
like to start?
Yes. I've got a nice story, nice and long, very long.
Yeah, it's gonna take up
Uh.
the entire episode.
Yeah. So here we have posted by user Yeet Cummins 6 days ago. DM needed 5 more minutes. WTF?
And that's it.
End of post.
The comments are amazing, though.
Yeah. Like, do you need 5 more minutes to write your post?
You know, on one hand, this is refreshing. Instead of 20...
I was gonna write a post, but
And
then
then
I
I
got
got
high.
high.
Ooh.
You know, on one hand, this is refreshing. Instead of 20 partners with unrelated characters talking about a campaign that would otherwise lead up to an anticlimactic but fucked up horror story, we get a short, simple horror story. On the other hand, I waste my time typing up this as a joke, so really, I don't know which is real horror story.
Mandor Handhook Car Door.
Yes. Wow, the brevity and wit at its core. Finally, we're getting away from these monstrous, inhuman, incomprehensible posts with over 120 characters long, providing useless context and boring build-up.
I had to sneeze, by the way.
Ah, rip.
All right. Do you want to read the first real story, or do you want me to read it?
You read the first real story. I have a story I want to save for the last. Because whatever cringe happens, it's gonna be a nice palate cleanser.
Okay, I've got one labeled as long, so it's a decent length. Paladin demands group kill my character on site, leaves table and ruins game when they refuse. Posted 3 days, posted, let me refresh so I can get the updated thing. Posted 4 days ago by user CG Bard usually. With like 1,000 upvotes.
Did you not close the tab until just now? Did you have the tab open the entire time?
Yeah.
What the hell is wrong with you?
I've had it open since Friday.
What the hell?
It's easier for me that way.
Just
that way
upload it.
That way they're already open. I don't have to like go into my profile, look, and hope that it's still there. Because you know, the 5-minute one wasn't there in this morning. In my upvotes, even though I uploaded it.
I don't know if you can hear that, but the dryer is being fucked right now.
Nah, I can't hear it.
Okay, good.
It might pick up on the.
It sounded like the Jumanji
OBS,
drums. Hey, Dozer. And now Dozer's all barky.
Alright.
Alright, let's get started.
Let's get started.
For real this time.
This happened. Yeah. This happened back in 2010, I believe, and we were playing 3.5. Most of us involved in the game were in the Navy. The main cast, me, the DM, and the DM's wife. Me, DM, and 2 other players were all in the Navy and on the same ship. We found out we were all into D&D through a random conversation that came up. All got really excited and decided to set up a campaign. DM said we could have meetings at his house, and since I crashed on his couch occasionally, I already knew he had the space to accommodate us. DM said his wife would want to play, and one of the 4 other players said his wife would also like to play. That gave us 5 players and a DM.
Hell yeah.
The ship was going to deploy in 2 months, so the DM said we could just give him our character sheets and backstories to approve before the first meeting. I told him that I'd always been a chaotic good bard or rogue, and was interested in doing something different. I had a concept put together for a lawful evil monk. Possibly doing a sort of redemption arc, wherein the monk, through the power of friendship, eventually shifts to good. Nice. He said that sounded like a really cool idea, and approved it.
I always love characters being dragged kicking and screaming into caring about people.
Yeah. There we go. The day of the first session arrived, and in the interest of time, we did the you all meet in the tavern hand wave, and why we're all together. That's when the DM's wife, a lawful good paladin, says to the rest of the party, "The monk is evil, I can sense it. We cannot travel together with darkness among us. Join me in killing the evil hiding within our ranks."
Wait, that's metagaming. Like
Well, it's paladin, it's 3.5e, they can sense evil.
Okay.
The rest of the party told her out of character that, absolutely not, we're not killing off a character in the first meeting. That would mean she doesn't even get to play and will be behind because she has to make a whole new character sheet. Can't your paladin let this slide? And that's when she dropped the shitty, metagamey bomb on me. It's not just the paladin, I will not play with an evil character. DM tried to explain the alignment shift arc we had planned, but she was adamant that she wouldn't play with someone evil, pointing at me.
Alright,
I was
bitch.
super confused. Yeah. I was super confused because, again, I crashed on this guy's couch a couple times a week, and I didn't feel like when I didn't feel like sleeping on the ship. His wife knew me and we got along. Her justification was anyone who would play an evil character is clearly a bad person because how could you do evil actions in a game if you don't believe in them for yourself?
Oh god, it's one of these assholes who think that
Completely unable to separate yourself from your character.
Not just that, they're the kinds of people who are like, if you watch Breaking Bad, that means you're just as bad as an actual meth dealer.
It means you like meth.
Yeah. The people who, like, need morals spoon-fed to them and can't separate... first off, can't separate art from reality, and also can't understand the concept of subtext, and sometimes when these things are being portrayed, they are being portrayed as a bad thing. Like how Walter White is portrayed as a bad person. Like, he is not a good person. You are not supposed to empathize.
He's a bad guy.
Yeah.
The rest of the party was still adamant that I hadn't caused any problems, and since the redemption arc had been spoiled, they knew I wasn't going to cause problems down the road. The problem was the DM's wife. And not even for a character story and game reason. She couldn't separate the player from the character, and that wasn't something any of us wanted in our game. When the party refused to kill my character, which I guess she thought would teach me a lesson about why playing an evil character is bad, she had her character fall upon her own sword, which really killed the vibe. We tried to continue on with the adventure, but the DM's wife was loudly scoffing and huffing in the background and decided that the middle of our session was the best time to vacuum the living room, make herself a smoothie in the blender, etc. Just in general
petty.
being very loud and disruptive. Yeah. Oh, and here's a kicker. Yummy yummy. DM said his wife wouldn't let him host anymore because she didn't want evil in their house.
They're in the military, right?
Navy, yeah.
Yeah. So, she doesn't want evil, and yet she signed up to kill people. Interesting.
Well, her husband signed up to kill
Yeah, right.
people.
Her husband... Sorry. He doesn't want evil, yet he signed up to be part of the military-industrial complex. Interesting.
Interesting. I'm very smart.
Yes.
The only other people in housing had pets that the DM was severely allergic to, and the other player's wife didn't want to come onto the ship to play on the mess decks because she got seasick. The other player, whose wife wanted to play, dropped the group entirely because he really wanted to play with his wife. I also was discharged from the Navy within a week of a deployment due to some unexpected health issues, so I don't know if they ever managed to get a game going on the ship. In addition, I was not allowed to crash on his couch anymore, as the DM's wife had banned me from their home entirely. While we maintained a friendship on the ship, he did tell me that his wife had told him to stop speaking to me, period.
Jesus.
I asked him if maybe she thought he and I were having an affair, and he assured me that was not the case at all. She legitimately thought that having the desire to play an evil character made me an evil person.
Yeah, like, She thinks that me playing an evil character makes me an evil person. I mean, I am an evil person, but not because I'm playing an evil character. It's because I want to kill people.
Yeah. While I feel like Session 0 could have exposed the problem earlier and prevented me from even rolling an evil character to begin with, I still can't help but wonder if she would have reacted the same way for even thinking about playing an evil alignment. The moral of the story, don't skip Session 0, and understand that a player is not their character. There's still more. Oh yeah. Edit. Some additional info. The DM, male 28, and his wife, female mid-40s, did tell me, 19F, that they've been playing together for 10 years and he'd been DMing for 8. I'd been playing for 4 years on and off, and generally just wanted to play something different because since I essentially been rolling the same character over and over with all the CG bards and rogues. The listed ages are accurate to when this happened, which was in 2010. A decent amount of time has passed, and I don't know what became of them after I got off the ship. As amusing as I find the people speculating in the comments that she's some kind of religious nut, y'all got the wrong religion. She's self-identified as a white light Wiccan, or as I call him, a fluffy bunny.
Don't like that.
Someone in the comments, what the actual shit, she needs therapy.
Yeah. Jesus Christ. So, the moral of this story is, just because a character does something does not mean the player condones that.
Ooh, more from the comments from the OP.
Oh boy. Give us the deets.
In response to what the actual shit needs therapy, OP responds, "It was wild, man. Like, when I asked DM if maybe she thought he and I were having an affair, he was just as lost as I was on her sudden flip and told me she'd actually been pushing him to ask me to join their polycule."
What the fuck? It's, that's wild.
Absolutely wild.
So yeah, that went in directions I was not expecting. Alright. So yeah, separate character and player, okay? You can play evil characters, it doesn't make you an evil person.
Yeah.
Like, there are some instances where if someone, like, goes against what was agreed at in Session 0 for boundaries, then yeah, that player is an asshole, and you should definitely take a look at the kind of things they've been doing. But also, if it's all within the boundaries that are established in Session 0, then it should be fine. Like, for example, if you...
They didn't have a Session 0, though.
Oh, yeah. They really should have, because if they had a Session 0, then the player could have been like, hey, I want to play an evil character. This is the arc I have planned. And the weirdo would have been like, well, my paladin isn't going to allow that. They don't travel with evil characters. And then it could have been nipped in the bud there by kicking them out for refusing to compromise.
Well, as the OP said, they think that she might have even just done it the same way for even thinking about playing an evil character. Yeah. Because remember, it wasn't just like her paladin wasn't into it. She wasn't into it.
I know, that's why I said they could have just kicked her out of Session 0. Then they could have avoided the whole blender and vacuum situation.
Well, then it was her house.
Yeah, okay. Either way, have Session 0, set boundaries, make sure you have characters that, like, would not kill each other on sight, or if they would, have a reason as to why they're not. Because, and also, don't be a fucking weirdo about someone's character. Don't say they're evil for playing an evil character. So, I have a story called The Dwarf Who Was Too Short to Look Up. and it is written by Ally Lysothiocyanate. Alright, I need to look. It is Ally Lysothiocyanate. What is that? That is horseradish. It's the thing that makes horseradish taste spicy. It was posted a week ago, and it has 103 upvotes. So, this happened.
Oh, allele.
Huh? What?
I think it's allele isothiocyanate.
Oh, probably. Allele isothiocyanate. All right. So,
It's an organosulfur compound. This colorless oil is responsible for the pungent taste of mustard, radish, horseradish, and wasabi.
yeah. So it's the spicy that's not capsaicin.
Yeah, well, one of the spices that's not capsaicin.
Yeah. Okay, so this happened many years ago, like way back in the late 1900s, when I was a wee babby mustard green. I had played Vampire the Masquerade and, what is WTA? Werewolf the Apocalypse.
Yeah.
Vampire the Masquerade and Werewolf the Apocalypse a few times with local groups. And one day, a couple people from that group invited me along to play D&D one-shot with another group that they knew. I hadn't met anyone else from the group, and I had never played D&D before. The game was an older edition, which I'm not sure which. Spoiler alert, this actually ended up turning me off of D&D for so long, I didn't play it again until 5e. So, with fair warning, I don't remember or never knew some of the details or game mechanics involved here. I could totally be wrong for all I know. Maybe I'm the RPG horror story. Anyway, the setting was
Maybe the real RPG horror story was the friends we made along the way.
Yeah. Anyway, the setting was run-of-the-mill sword and sorcery, Tolkien with the serial numbers filed off, the standard issue fantasy world where we all know inside and out. Now, being an idealistic and contrarian young thing, and not really understanding some of the things about D&D character optimization, I thought it would be good to subvert some of the tropes in this world by role-playing a character that had a surprisingly atypical class and skill loadout for their species. I was upfront about this with the DM and other players, so I decided to build a Dwarven Ranger, whose main offensive technique was archery. The others in the group said I could, but warned me that it wouldn't be optimized. Maybe I am the asshole. Are we getting to this to, am I the asshole?
Maybe we can give it a score out of 5 at the end, I guess.
Yeah, let's do that. Maybe I'm the asshole for not taking the hint, but I figured, hey, it's a one-shot, so it's not that serious. I'll take the right stats and be a good archer at starting level, as good of an archer at starting level as a dwarf can be, and the roleplay flavor will be fun. And I was the only one who was new to D&D, so the DM and other players helped me allocate my stats and figure out which skills I would need to get started. The other players were a caster of some sort, a cleric, and a couple melee-based fighting classes. I don't remember for sure. I was the only dwarf, as well as the only PC with ranged physical, at least starting out. Typical adventure began. We popped into existence in a local tavern. Whatever, the story hook was walked up to us, and we were away. I don't remember exactly what we were supposed to be doing, saving a noble's daughter or finding a magical artifact or something, but the first leg of our MacGuffin hunt took us to a rocky path through some mountains and canyons where we were immediately attacked by some pterodactyls. We rolled initiative, and a couple of the other players got attacks, and then it was my turn. Obviously, I try to shoot down one of the pterodactyls with my bow. The DM smirks and says, "Did you take insert skill I never heard of and hadn't heard of since? Let's call it aerial reconnaissance." But again, I don't remember exactly what he called it. I was like, "No, what's that?" The DM explained to me that because dwarves are so short, they're not able to use ranged weapons against targets that are positioned physically above them unless they take this special skill that allows them to, essentially, look upward. I said I hadn't seen or been told about that rule and asked to see it, and was accused of arguing against the DM. I asked why nobody had mentioned this when they were helping me build the character, since they all knew I had no experience with the game and was making a dwarven archer. And the session devolved into a lecture about how I should have known the inherent inflexibility of dwarven clavicle bones. Well, cervical bones. It should be clavicle, not cervical. Yeah, that I should have known about the inherent inflexibility of...
No.
Huh?
Cervical bones, those are the bones in your neck.
No, aren't cervix... Isn't the cervix the crotch area for girls?
Yeah, but that's a different thing.
Oh. I thought the clavicle was that. What's the clavicle then?
I believe that's your shoulder blades.
Oh, okay. Alright, then I was wrong.
They are your shoulder... well, they're not your shoulder blades, but the thin ones on the front.
Okay. So I wasn't too far off from my thought that clavicle is important for looking up. But yeah, no, I'll take the L on that one. I asked if I could at least try to shoot the pterodactyl, even if it wasn't likely to hit. The DM's response was, "Well, you can try, but I'm going to tell you now it won't be possible to roll that high, and so the only thing that might happen is you hit one of your allies." Okay. I watched to see what happens. The rest of the party fought the pterodactyls, and we moved on. I tried to engage with the world in a couple more times, but was repeatedly shot down or ignored. I ended up spending the entire rest of the session using every turn I had to watch other players doing it, and doing what I was arbitrarily ruled I couldn't do solely because of my character's race. Highlights include, "Your arm's not long enough," or "You're too heavy to make a jump, so you'll have to find another way around." And I couldn't leave because the friends I had come with were my ride, so I sat through it for hours. No one noticed or cared that I was having a terrible time, and I didn't play D&D again for at least a decade. In fact, because I was a wee babby, I didn't have the social skills to spot a problem table. I spent a fair amount of time telling other tabletop RPG players how much I hated D&D because the rules were so restrictive and stupid, and the players were so argumentative and unwelcoming. I gave it another try many years later when with friends I trusted, and I've come to realize that the DM was almost certainly cheesing everything to punish me for my race and class choice. But I was always curious if there actually is, or was, at least in older editions, some kind of rule about dwarves being too short to look up. I never found it if there was. And that's the end of the story.
The comments say no.
Yeah. There's nothing that says that's, yeah, no, these people 100% just wanted to ruin your day, even ignoring the absolute absurdity of the definitely never existed rule. The fact that they helped you create your character, but never once mentioned that this would be an issue, gives it away. The fact that not a single one of them stood up for you and actively helped the DM shun you for not making an optimized character puts a nail in the coffin. They were just bad people. I hope they all look back on the day and are haunted by the enormity of how cuntish they were. They deserve shame. And I hope you still make unoptimized fun builds. Sorry you had to deal with such nasty people. Here's to a future of games and good people with it. I'm gonna like that comment. That's a good comment. But yeah, so let's rule. Is this person the asshole? Drum roll, please.
Absolutely not.
Yeah, absolutely not. The DM, everyone
0
else.
out of 5.
Yeah, the DM is the asshole. This was obviously them just like picking on a new player, which is one of the worst things to do. Like, why the hell would you pick on someone? Like, what do you achieve by that? The most you achieve is you turn someone away from D&D for a long time. Like, that's the best case scenario. Like,
And that's the scenario that happened in this thing.
exactly.
Like, you said they didn't touch D&D for a decade
until
after
5e. But yeah, so, like, congratulations, DM, you were an asshole to someone because they didn't know the rules, and then you refused to
made
let
up
them.
Your own dumb bullshit rules.
And when they asked for a clarification, you refused?
Not just refused.
Argued.
Well, not just refused to do anything, did like, well, if you're just gonna argue with the DM, maybe you could just leave.
Yeah.
In a situation.
In a situation they couldn't leave because they're friends for the ride. That's not D&D, that's just a hostage situation. That's just being a dick.
Yeah.
Alright. So, the rule for this one, don't be an asshole to new players. Like, everyone was a new player at one point. You want to give them a good experience that's worth coming back to. You don't want to turn them off from the game permanently.
Exactly.
God. Alright, you got a story?
I do.
Hell yeah.
This one's labeled as extra long, so it'll take a little bit.
Alright.
From user own delivery 7929, about 20 hours ago, with this incredibly long title of, I guess this is just another story about a great campaign ruined by a problem player. I just need to vent a little and hopefully help someone else to notice the red flags I was too blind to see.
Oh boy.
This is a long story, be warned. And please forgive any mistakes, as English is not my first language. At first I posted this story on another subreddit in search of advice, but since then there have been new updates, and I've come to realize that this subreddit is the right place to divulge it. It's a story about a problem player, a rant to vent a bit, and a cautionary tale, I guess. I'll put a TLDR at the end. So, late 2018, October or November, I discovered D&D and instantly fell in love. At the beginning, I was a player in a local game store, but everyone was very unhappy with the GM, and so I set out to create my own campaign. After 5 months since I first discovered D&D, in April, I started a monumental homebrew project in the setting of a fantasy series that I loved, and still loved. It required a lot of adjustments, preparation, and extra work. We did a session 0, a trial one-shot. Every character had an interesting backstory that tied into the main plot and in many subplots. And I did a one-on-one session for each player to let them get a feel for the characters in the world. It became a house game. It was hard, preparing sessions took time, and I tried to make everything as engaging as possible. To give you a measure of the amount of work I did near the end to try to provide an experience as immersed, complex, and alive as possible, for the last side quest the party chose to do, I had on my part a 26-page document full of notes, descriptions, dialogues, and informations to give to the players, plus dedicated sound effects and soundtracks.
Oh, fancy.
Sure, it took 3 sessions to complete the side quest, but I had it all prepared beforehand. And of course, each player was deeply interwoven into the story and had the chance to be at the center of the drama for the different story arcs. Reminder, this guy hadn't even been playing D&D for a year.
Oh. Wild.
So I can say with confidence I was good, and that my players loved it, and often reminded me to keep up the good work, and enthusiastically commented on the session or anticipated the next one. Sometimes I wanted to stop and they begged me to continue, or laughed or cried or insulted. But it was so much fun. They were invested in the stories, the characters, the dynamics of the group crew. The game was fun and engaging for everyone. We never had problems scheduling, and we played from 4 p.m. to 1 a.m. once a week. Sure, there were problems. We had to adjust rules
Wait,
sometimes.
4 p.m. to 1 a.m.? That's 9 hours.
Hell yeah.
That's more than a workday. Jesus.
Oh, it's only once a week.
Oh, okay. Still, that's a lot of commitment. That is 4 episodes worth of Tapir.
Yeah. Oh, that's me shaking my head because I have a bit of a motor tick. You insult me
Nah.
in my own sewer.
This is our sewer.
Death to you.
Plays the communist theme.
Dun, 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 dun. All right. Sure, there were problems. We had to adjust rules sometimes, and one of my players, the fiance of my most active and experienced player, never really cared for the game, but they were trivial. Even when a player had to stay away from our city for 3 or 4 months, we kept playing with him in call and everything worked. Honestly, I felt I had, overall, the perfect table and was having a perfect D&D experience. But I was beginning to feel tired of being only the GM, so I found another game where I could be a player while I kept mastering my campaign. In this other game I found another player that, in my opinion, would appreciate my campaign. He was passionate, smart, engaged, and proactive, but also demanding and prone to bursts of anger. I knew he could bring problems, but I was convinced he could also be a new element that, if channeled, could enrich the game. So I found myself with 6 players, a bit much for my taste, but nothing I couldn't manage. He had a very strong character and a strong personality, and constantly asked for more attention, power, informations, and relevance in the game. But I didn't give in and managed to go on. And the game, in fact, got better. Even the rivalries that formed gave life to more interesting dynamics, and allowed some of the best moments of the campaign. This new player, that I'll call Wolf from now on, is the reason I'm telling this story. At one point, unfortunately, 2 of my players became too busy with life to keep playing, so I remained with 4 players, but the campaign continued as strong and lively as ever, and became even more focused. Wolf was a very good player in the mechanical sense of the term. His roleplay was on point, he knew his character like the back of his hand, actively tried to form bonds with the NPCs and other PCs, researched the lore of the world, etc. Sometimes he was still hot-headed and had animated discussions with me or the other players, but it was still fine. The good exceeded the bad. Then came the pandemic. We kept playing on Discord for a time. Finally, in June 2021, I had a falling out with 2 of my players for reasons unrelated to the game, and I felt that the 2 remaining players, Wolf was one of them, weren't enough to keep going. The story had progressed become too personal, too intertwined with the characters. The relationship to the various NPCs were too important, and I was generally feeling down. It had been a beautiful and fun experience, but it was over. Or so I thought. Wolf remained close to me in the months that followed, and we became friends, or so I thought. In the end, his passion was what convinced me to resume the original campaign from where we had left off, instead of starting a new one. I knew it wasn't going to be easy, that things would never be the same, and that it would take time for new players to adapt, grow to care about the world and about a story at this point 2 years in the making, and that there would be an unbalance of power, relevance, and knowledge between the original players and the new one. I said as much to Wolf, but I hoped everything would work out. So after searching for players, in May 2022, the campaign resumed with 3 new players and newbies of the hobby, for a totaled 5 players. All in all, I was excited to try again and full of ideas. But since then, I only heard complaints from Wolf about literally everything. After every session, he would message me with something negative to say. It grated on me, eroded my patience. But he held on, hoping that held on, hoping that things would get better. Some of the complaints were constructive, and I took them in account, altering a few rules to smooth the game over. Some were frankly absurd, and I ignored them. I really didn't see how serious the problem was, because from my point of view, the other players were gradually beginning to share the same interest as the old one, things kept getting better with time, but Wolf complained that his experience wasn't as fun as before. I was being too generous with the new players, giving them too much attention and information. He often made his displeasure known with snarky remarks during the game, but we took them in stride with a laugh.
Oh god. He's the kind that wants to be the main character. It's not a bad thing to coddle new players. You have to ease them into, you have to be gentle with them at first, so that as they grow more comfortable with playing, and
you can kill them.
Yeah, you shouldn't send them up to a Tarrasque in session 1. That's something that they have to. Not just the characters need experience, but the players also need to gain the experience to take on the bigger the bigger monsters and bigger challenges.
Yeah. I mean, sure, there's still the absolute possibility that one of your new players will absolutely go down to the group of 5 goblins that you've sent after them in session 1. But that's D&D.
Yeah. If I have a new player and they try to solo some bandits, I'm not gonna kill them when they hit 0. I'm gonna have them be captured so that they. Yeah. Killing them, I wouldn't kill someone until they were at least level 3. Granted, that only takes 2 sessions the way I run, because I do milestone and use the first 2 sessions effectively as tutorials for how the campaign will be run.
Sorry, someone sent me a video of a baby possum.
Oh, that sounds cute.
I really didn't see how serious the problem was, because from my point of view, the other players were gradually beginning to share interests a bit. Alright. He often made his displeasure known. Okay, we took them in stride with a laugh. Finally, yesterday, Wolf said to me he wasn't going to continue playing, or he would act in-game without care for the other players, or as a murder hobo if I didn't consent to his requests for more attention, power, and influence in the decision-making of the campaign. An ultimatum of sort. Only at that point, I realized this couldn't be allowed to go on. I asked him to please write me a message to tell me if he was sure he wanted to leave, and to specify what his problems were with the campaign. I will list some of his grievances and accusations, quoting from his messages. Since I've been playing in this campaign longer, I should permanently be more powerful than the others, and they should never be able to catch up to me.
That is just entitled! What the shit?
The new player should be grateful that my character's so much stronger than theirs, because I can save them during fights.
Let them save themselves.
My character should be more powerful, or be able to do this or that, because it makes sense. No, it doesn't.
Yeah, no.
The new players know nothing about the lore, and are still able to talk with mysterious entities, and that nullifies the adversities we had to overcome in the past to do the same. The new players don't deserve to know anything important about the world or lore. The new player character's a mage that studied books for all of his life, therefore he shouldn't add his proficiency bonus to his rolls to hit.
What?
The story became one for children. You changed the story, you're responsible for all this, you mismanaged the information, let the new characters have meaningful contents while they should have been simple and kept giving. Things I had to work for a long time to obtain, be it informations or upgrade, are given for free. The others still don't know how to play, and that they have relevant information to the plot ruined everything.
Yeah,
I have no
the fact that they don't know how to play is why the DM is making it a little bit easier. Like, you don't hand a toddler Dark Souls as their first game. I mean, you could.
Yeah.
Oh god, I wonder what how that would end. Yeah, no, you don't make someone's first campaign be like instant death kind of thing. You have to let them grow. If you're unfair to new players, they're gonna be turned off from the game. Just like the last story.
Yeah. Let's see. I have no intention to roleplay with people that aren't remotely remotely worthy to know even a sliver of lore. I have no intention to submit to bullshit, nor have I any intention to justify myself when others still don't know how to read their character sheet. I have a notebook full of information that the other player receives thanks to... I have a notebook full of information, while that other new player receives information thanks to a skill check with DC 15. This is what should be justified. This insult to one who gave time and true dedication to a true story. Not a new player who thinks he knows it all because he has information received for free and without context. It wasn't for free, he made a check. I have to work for my upgrades while others receive things easily. I won't play at these conditions anymore. The campaigns have been ruined for me. You're responsible for this. You're the one who wanted to continue with the campaign. You're the one who ruined it, turning off my passion. You're the one that wanted to continue it, Wolf.
Got you there.
I wasted time and energy on swines while you were lenient with them. You preferred, I think. You preferred giving things to them and destroyed the game. Well, after reading this and much more, I apologized to the other players and abruptly closed the campaign. Yes, I know that the correct thing to do would be to kick Wolf out and keep the campaign running for the others, but frankly, all the wind had gone from my sails at that point. The other players didn't deserve to have their fun ruined, not by Wolf and not by me for ending it, and it was unfair and cowardly of me to not address the situation before. Anyway, the story goes on. After 3 days of complete silence on his part, he writes to me, beginning with saying that he was writing me only to say his GF had advised him to. Then he asked me to continue the campaign with him, and said that he was pissed at having to be the one to propose it because he expected I would try to convince him to come back. Yeah, if you think it's weird, you're not alone. I was confused too. Obviously, I refused to continue the campaign, but I tried to be as diplomatic, calm, and reasonable as possible, but it quickly devolved on his part to a deluge of insults at my expense. Quite childish and personal ones at that. And in an explicit break of our supposed friendship that evidently to him was only conditional to his participation in the game. And this is it. There's still more. I feel guilty for having had a part in this at the detriment of other players that are the true victims in this story. I explained everything to them and they were very kind and understanding. I can only hope that they will be willing to play again with me in the future. At this point, I just feel betrayed, sad, tired, and empty that this project came to a sudden stop again. Did I waste my time and effort? Was there maybe something else I could have done, or a better way to manage the situation? For me, this really was a work of passion, something that had drained a lot of my free time and occupied my mind constantly for years now. And it's made even worse that the problem, at least for Wolf, was my work as a GM. I know he was the root of the problem, but a part of me still wonders just how much of this is my fault.
Oh, God.
For the foreseeable future, I will be taking a break from GMing. I would like to be a player for a while, and in the meantime, search for new people that maybe will reignite me in the right spark I need to be a GM again. And this is it. I hope this will prevent someone else from living the same experience. I was blind to a lot of red flags that in hindsight were quite obvious. I know, and I'm sorry. I won't make the same mistake in the future. Thanks for reading. And then there's a TLDR, but...
Yeah. Don't be an entitled little bitch just because you've played D&D longer than someone else. Like, the theme of these stories are... Don't be a damn douchebag to new players. Like, that's what it's boiling down to. New players, like...
Don't think you're entitled to more shit just because you've been in the game longer, also.
Yeah. If anything, the new players should be more entitled to some shit so that they can more quickly get on your level, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. The way I have if any new players joined my campaign, the way I've decided how to use magic items, for example, is for every 4 levels a character has, it's 2d4, and that gives you points, and then, oh god,
I'm getting a phone call.
I can't hear it, but you were vibrating like crazy. So I'll continue explaining my thing while you handle whatever. So, there are, so the way it works is,
I have to go help my folks.
Okay, I'll continue explaining while you're doing that. So, for every 4 levels the player has when making the character, it's you roll a d4. So, if they're level 8, that's 2d4, for example. And that gives you points that you can spend on magic items. Common is 2 common items for every point. Uncommon is 1 point per item. Rare is 3 points per, or 2 points per. I'd have to check my notes. I'm trying to say this off the top of my head. And then, very rare is 3 points. Yeah, very rare is 3 points. Or maybe it was, very rare is 5 points and rare is 3 points. Either way, I use a point system, which means that it's possible that a new character might have a few more magic items than a character that had been with the party since the beginning. But that's because the party has, like, whenever they get magic items, they tend to split it amongst themselves. And they've only really found one major cache of magic items, and that was when they fought the Archfey. They haven't really found very many, like, places where there's a lot of magic items, other than, you know, also the shop. But yeah, I think that I think that being a dick to new players, though, is one of the worst things to do. Like, taking advantage of their naivete is just not a good thing. You need to nurture that curiosity and that passion for role-playing games. Alright? You need to give them an experience that they will remember in a positive light. You need to make it something that, no matter how bad D&D is, like, no matter how, like, if they join a campaign, it's terrible, they always have that original first game as, like, a metric for comparison. Because whatever a first campaign is like, that will be a person's default to judge other campaigns by. Because that will be the point where, like, oh, so this is what D&D is. And that's why it's so important to make sure to get all that, and make sure that you do it right. I am running out of talking points. Yeah. The campaign I'm running is going along nicely. They finally made it to, they finally made it to Ditbach. And then they have a 5-day travel into a desert to finally get to the place where their leads said that they need to go. Oh boy, I hope they haven't forgot the information that the person who gave them the lead told them. That could get awkward if they finally make it to the town and they're like, so what are we supposed to do again? Because it has been like a couple months since they were in real life since they've received that information. I feel like if we ran for like 4 hours and did it weekly, we would only be like maybe 20 episodes in or something. I don't know. But yeah. Yeah, this arc is hopefully going to be coming to a close soon. And then they can do the other arcs. 'Cause I got a lot of stuff planned.
Hi, I'm back. Sorry for the wait.
Ew, I was just rambling off about Tapir. Talking about how y'all are almost to the city. Like, y'all are maybe a couple sessions away from the city. Depending on how the weather goes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Alright.
I grabbed myself a bottle of water while I was out.
Alright. So, my point about the last story boiled down to stopping assholes to new players.
Yeah.
Alright, so my next one is called Calling the DM's Bluff by Totally Legit Cat. It was posted 12 days ago and has 156 upvotes. So, this one is, this one does involve, or does reference another story, which I am going to be reading next week.
Ooh.
Yeah. So, inspired by my DM story of the Uptown Rage Quit, I'd like to share a horror story in my past Curse of Strahd campaign, where I was the DM. Beware spoilers for Curse of Strahd, obviously. And also, it's a long read, so be prepared. We were a party of 3, or the party were at level 3, when they had escorted a ward, Irina, to the second settlement in the game, the town of Wallaki. Wallaki's context is that it was the largest surviving town in the Valley of Barovia. It's somewhat a stronghold against vampires, werewolves, and witches and other creatures of the night. Naturally, they had a standing militia, with their lieutenant, number 2, Isaac, as their head. What the party and everyone else didn't know is that Isaac is the long-lost brother of Irina. Isaac didn't know it either, and thus he sees the woman of his dream. Literally, he decides to kidnap and arrest her. Her adoptive brother, Ismark, thus were being escorted away from the scene of the kidnapped, where the party happens upon him. During the rescue, one player accidentally kills a guard, and thus they are now wanted murderers. After a lengthy stealth chase sequence, the party was surrounded by multiple guards, with Isaac being summoned to the scene. Now, a thing further about Isaac that was described over several interactions with the player is that Isaac has a frickin' demon arm that throws fire. He is the town's general, after all. Not wanting a TPK over the incident, I had the town burgomaster show up to the standoff and order the team to put their weapons down and promise everything will be alright. Hey, free mercs, what's not to like? Now, enter the infamous player. I'll call him Curious Kong. Curious Kong, previous character, was a forge cleric who picked up a zombie arm and got surprised that it knocked his elf out at level 1. Curious Kong's character after the incident, foreshadowing, was a solo bard who ran alone into a coffin shop upstairs into 5 vampire spawn. Curious Kong is also the one who loudly and publicly revealed the identity of the masked hero to a town full of spies as a way to gain clout with the hero and expected the hero to be friendly to him. Yes, because, walking into the League of Villains and shouting, "Batman is Bruce Wayne," will definitely win you clout with Bruce Wayne.
Mm-hmm.
Curious Kong, in all meaning and purposes, is a very curious specimen. In this moment, when the team were at half their health or lower, spell slots were spent, and debating how to weasel out of this, out of doing free stuff for the Burgomaster, Curious Kong decides that his level 3 paladin is going to walk towards the demon-armed captain of the militia and say these words. Watch guys, I'm gonna call the DM's bluff. No, it wasn't the Burgomaster's. No, it wasn't the sadistic demon-armed town captain. He was calling my supposed bluff. He attacked and rolled a nat 20. Very nice. He smited, dealt around 40 damage. Very nice indeed. Isaac is now from not a scratch to bloody. But Isaac immediately retaliated. He rolled a crit. Whoops. His attack would normally do 2d10 plus 4, and now it's 4d10 plus 4. Uh-oh. Rolled a total of 42 damage. Big whoops. The paladin had 28 max HP, and he only had 13 left. Very big whoops. I described as his head is lopped clean off his shoulder, and Curious Kong was dumbfounded amidst his peers' laughter. He proclaimed that he didn't expect Isaac to kill him, and was met with more laughter from his peers, reminding him that Isaac also burned someone alive for disobeying him. He then asked me after the game to maybe have people immortalize him as a revolutionist standing up against tyranny. I answered that unless the team somehow completely salvaged the town, they won't, since his party was wanted for murder. Curious Kong then asks how he could be a murderer when he was trying to liberate the town from an evil guard. And I pointed out that said guard was also guarding them from werewolves and vampires. Curious Kong finally resigned and asked to roll up a bard who knew about the tales of the dead paladin and is set to immortalize his legacy. There were many more twists and turns for the party afterward, but this one moment will never cease to amaze me, and I will remember back to it. So,
first thing, good on him for instantly bloodying Isaac. That's fun.
Yeah, that is actually... We did not kill Isaac.
We barely interacted with Isaac.
Yeah.
Because we didn't have Irina.
Yeah, we killed the Burgomaster and managed to... God, did we bluff our way out of it? Or did we... I don't even remember how we got out of that. I think we bluffed our way.
I don't remember exactly.
I want to say we blamed it on, like, some rogue werewolves or some shit. Like, oh, werewolves broke in. We fought them. And then they did this. No, I think we did actually get Isaac down, like, a lot. Because I had my spiritual weapon.
I think we beat the shit out of him, but we didn't kill him.
Yeah, we beat the shit out of him and we didn't kill him. So, yeah, that's how that went. Typically, DMs aren't really bluffing when they tell you that, hey, this will end in a TPK if you don't accept this. Like, I know the DM didn't explicitly say that, but the writing's on the wall.
Yeah, like, what do you expect is gonna happen when you face off against a guy with a demon arm and you're level 3?
Hey, if you're playing Curse of Strahd and someone says that if you don't do a thing, they will kill you. Chances are they're not bluffing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anywho, that was that story. Not much to be learned here other than
Don't be an idiot.
situational awareness.
Curse of Strahd is out to kill you. Try not to be killed.
Yeah. Try and also don't call the DMs bluff. Because typically they're not actually bluffing.
Yeah.
Unless they're playing a character that is specifically made to bluff. Like, if they're a known liar, then maybe. Anywho, let's hear a final story.
My final story is... Found out my girlfriend caused a TPK by user PlayfulBookkeeper66 about 14 hours ago.
Oh,
134 upvotes.
Nice. That's some really good stats.
Yep. Still sort of trying to find out how I feel about this one, but my gut reaction's pretty negative. If your party got TPK'd Friday night, maybe skip this one. TLDR, my first time DM threw an impossibly difficult monster at us and TPK'd the party in a blaze of glory, only for me to find out that my girlfriend was breaking several rules with him to sabotage us.
Oh boy.
Feeling a little miffed.
Oh.
So, to set the scene a little bit, my group's been playing for about a year and a half now, with me DMing. However, a few players have been interested in DMing for the first time, and I've been looking forward to getting to play, so we decided to take a break from my campaign and try out one of our players' campaigns. This is his first time DMing, and it's come with the typical hiccups that a new DM always has, but until last night, it was going really well. The relevant cast is just the DM, John, my girlfriend, Sarah, who plays a changeling 5-bard 1 warlock, and me, who played a grung barbarian. Obligatory, not real disclaimers, not real names, disclaimers, obligatory. The session starts where we left off last time, with the party trying to sneak into a town through the catacombs to assassinate one of the BBEG's top minions. Along the way, we accidentally piss off a black pudding and decide to flee as opposed to stay and fight it, knowing that we could outrun it. However, we do not outrun it, and it manages to stay right on our heels. I figure this is either a slight DM mistake or just a way to increase the tension, and boy does it! After a handful of skill checks, we run into a new room that just happens to have the minions we're after, which is the good news. The bad news would be the Balor he's talking to.
Oh,
yes,
fuck.
a Balor. Full on, nearly unmodified, John waved the non-magical resistance on account of none of us having magical weapons, CR 19 Balor, and a black pudding against 6 level 6 PCs. No, wait, actually, Sarah's PC is apparently not in the room, so make that 5 level 6 PCs. Fuck it, we ball.
Baylor's the lizard with a bunch of arms, right? Or am I thinking of Bahir?
Let's see, D&D. No, a Balor is a fucking devilly demony guy.
Oh, okay.
A demon.
Then yeah,
Chaotic, evil, huge fiend.
Okay, then yeah, I was thinking of Bahir.
Hit points 21d12 plus 126.
Yeah, it's a beefy boy.
Flight speed of 80 feet. Challenge rating 19.
Yeah.
To spare you the details, thanks to a combination of John being extremely unaggressive with the creature, as well as him rolling fairly poorly, we managed to bring him to the verge of death, with my grung spending most of the battle holding onto his horns, laying in damage. Finally, on the Balor's turn, John targets me and misses, and because the creature was so low already, he let me deflect the blow into the Balor's head, killing it, with most of our PC being under 20 HP. Pretty awesome, right? Those of you who've read the Balor stat block can probably guess what happened next. But for those of you who don't, but for those of you who haven't, allow me to explain. You see, the Balor has an ability called death throws, where upon death, each creature within 30 feet must make a DC 20 dex save, uh,
Or else it explodes.
20d6 fire damage on a failsave, and half on a pass. This kills the crab.
Yeah.
So yeah, one PC was dead outright, with the rest of us on saving throws, with a still very much alive Black Pudding still in the room for some reason.
Oh, not a black pudding.
Pretty grim, right? Well, Sarah's character wasn't in the room, and as such was unaffected by the blast, so all she had to do was come in and sweep up the ooze and get the cleric back up within a minute for Revivify, and we're golden. But because it's already midnight, and what a cliffhanger, we stopped there for this week and we'll be picking it up next Friday.
Oh, jeez.
Now this is all great and made for a really fun session. But then I talked to Sarah in the car about what she'd been doing the whole session while combat was taking place. She got this big smile and told me I had to promise not to metagame if she told me, and since I'm used to knowing everything about the game anyway, I promised. Turns out she was the ooze.
The black pudding?
Yep. Not at first, but while we were running, she turned into it using her changeling powers. Turns out her patron's the BBEG, and as such, she's trying to sabotage the party. Which I don't mind, I love that kind of twist, especially when it's in character. But first, a few problems. Firstly, changelings can only change into other humanoids of the same size.
Yeah. Can't turn into a slime unless you were a plasmoid.
Not only are oozes very much not humanoid, but she is also repeatedly referred to as a large creature by John, and treated as such in terms of how much area she controlled as well as how many creatures it could affect and grapple. On top of this, it still did acid damage on contact and did multiple attacks per round. Essentially, she was treated like she had cast Polymorph on herself, but doesn't have that spell.
Not even Polymorph. Polymorph can only turn you into beasts. You'd need a true Polymorph or shape change. Although, I guess if she brings it up with the DM, they could probably be like, oh, the BBEG gave you an item to do that or something to fix that plot hole.
She doesn't have that spell, and as I understand it, it only turns people into beasts and doesn't work on shape changers.
Oh, yeah.
The whole thing left a bad taste in my mouth, and the more I think about it, the worse I feel. But when I started to express this, she got fairly defensive and said that the DM can do whatever they want, and that she was just being creative. To me, it feels like she's being able to do essentially whatever she wants, since now she's got a plot device, and it feels unfair to the point of kinda invalidating the game to begin with. I don't know. I'm mostly just venting to get it out, since I can't talk to her or anyone else in our group, since it ruined the twist of the campaign, but it just feels very wrong to me.
Yeah, that's a reasonable concern. That is a very reasonable concern. I can understand, like, tasking a player with being the imposter for like a one-shot, but for like a long-running campaign, I don't think that's necessarily the best idea, unless it's like a guest player.
Yeah, if it's like a guest player, then sure.
Yeah, like if plot twist Guppy ends up being the BBEG all along, but yeah, no. I think having a permanent player being a traitor, like from the beginning, from the beginning is of a long-running campaign isn't necessarily the best idea. Any other thoughts?
My other thoughts are maybe don't. Maybe don't.
Yeah, just don't. I see you thinking about it, but don't.
Don't do it.
Yeah. Could you not? I see you doing the thing, but what if you considered not? All right, so my final story is called "Why Did I Name the NPC That?" by Cold Sheep Herder 9157. It was posted 15 days ago and has 1,346 upvotes. Oh, you're gonna love this one. So I'm the forever DM of our long-established crew, and despite the gags, I honestly prefer it to playing. World building and setting up systems of politics and cultures and plot hooks and characters, it all appeals to me. And I always run extremely open homebrew sandbox type games. Going somewhere there's something to do. The world is your enchilada. Fuck yeah! I'm the same way. I mean, I do like playing, but also I love world building. Enough preamble. So, in our current campaign, the crew was hired to go to a city, aesthetically based on the Islamic Golden Age, with flintlocks, to sneak into a dungeon below the Sultan's palace and bust a guy out on death row. Standard D&D stuff. They got it done very easily. But they went off script, and I was prepared for it. They always take the adventure to a direction I didn't see coming. The crew noticed while they were there that the city practiced a sort of chattel slavery of Dragonborn. They did not take kindly to this, especially the Dragonborn bard and his elven druid wife. So they decided to stage a coup, as you do. They had discovered a large force of pirates not far from the city that equaled the men at arms under the government. This was for a plot hook that they never saw, as they took a different direction, but instead they plotted with the head pirate, a real nice piece of work, a reoccurring villain over many campaigns, to get his help overthrowing the government and installing him as the head of the new regime. Why they thought this was a good idea is beyond me. In a later adventure, they decided that he had to be overthrown too. Anyway, during the next plotting phase, the crew was holed up in an abandoned farmhouse planning when a messenger from the Pirate King came knocking with plot-relevant details that the DM totally wasn't making up on the fly. The messenger was a Dragonborn. At our table, they can have wings, tails, both, or neither. And this is going to be shortly relevant. After he delivered the message, the Dwarven Paladin asked for the messenger's name. He did this for two reasons. One, his character is very polite, and it's very polite for his polite paladin to do that. And two, his player is an old friend who knows the weakest part of my game is coming up with NPC names on the fly, so he pulls the shit constantly to see what it happens. I am the same way. Chalkby never has names prepared, so I always ask for names. It's fun to bully Chalkby sometimes, but not in a dick way. Speaking of, I panicked and my mind went blank and I blurted out, Johnny Two Dicks! Why the fuck did I say that? The world will never know, and I certainly don't. The game session detailed for a good 15 minutes as they dug into this. After harassing,
I think it meant to be derailed.
Yeah, it's probably derailed. After harassing the poor guy, he finally sighed heavily and dropped trow. And yeah, his name was accurate. We're in our 30s and 40s, but the crew was giggling like a bunch of 13-year-olds. They questioned this character once the laughter died down, and Johnny defensively said that some Dragonborn have wings or tails and he just happened to have two dicks. Lay off. It's a very minor horror story, but mostly me embarrassing myself, but I'll never let it down. And it was over a year ago in this 2-year-long and going strong campaign, and I still hear about it every other one of our weekly sessions. See, whenever that happens, you gotta own it. Instead of being sheepish, be like, have the Dragonborn be offended that they take his name so hilariously. Be like, excuse you, you are insulting the Two Dicks name. You can't. The Two Dicks are a proud family of warriors. All right. You know, go like that route. Have it be a noble name. Look, I'm no stranger to joke names. In my first campaign, I had one named Bethany Esda. You know, Bethesda.
Uh-huh.
It was a funny joke.
Yeah.
Har har har. She ended up...
I hear you unscrewing your Fanta.
Damn, you got me. But yeah, she ended up being like one of the most important NPCs. She was she was the cousin of one of the big bads.
Fun.
The Usurper King's cousin. Or sister. I don't fucking remember. You think you think I've looked at my notes from a campaign that's been ended for 3 years? I think it's been 3 years. Either way. Moral of this story, fantasy name generator is your best friend.
Yep.
I always try to have that open. Sometimes it takes a little while to generate a name, but I always try to have that. Yeah, this is one of the... We'll put this on the wall of not horror, but still cringe. You know, the good wall. Along with Uwu Esmeralda and shit, the guy with the Wheaton curse. What was his name?
I don't know.
But yeah. So that's a nice palate cleanser for all the awful stuff we read today.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that concludes this episode. Don't be a shit to new players. And yeah. So there's a lot of other stuff.
Always have a name generator.
Yes,
open.
always have a name generator. So yeah, there's a bunch of other stuff on the channel that you can check out. There is 2 Dungeons & Dragons campaigns. One is Curse of Strahd, which we mentioned which we briefly referenced when we were talking about Isaac. And the other is World of Tapir, which is a homebrew that I run, which I mentioned when you were out. Also on the channel, there is Minish Cap, which Biddy is playing. There's also me playing Hollow Knight, and my boyfriend Scraps is playing Bug Fables. And the last thing on our channel is Tabletop Thursdays, where Biddy, Chalkfy, and I, and sometimes Scraps, play Tabletop Simulator. And we post it every Thursday. Yep.
Yeah.
Alright. Speaking of, the next episode of, or I guess the last episode of Tabletop Thursday was on Groundhog Day, I believe.
Ooh.
Yeah. So, comment challenge of the day. What are some of the funny NPC names you've either came up with or you've encountered if you're a player? Like, some of the silliest
in my
NPCs.
first campaign where I was playing as a tiefling bard, the DM had a habit for human names.
Yeah.
For instance, the owner of the tavern in the town we started in, his name was David Davidson.
Oof.
And then there was John Johnson.
Oh god. I think my favorite NPC was the guard captain named like Richard Holder. You know, Dick Holder. Either that or any of the numerous bird puns like Maggie Pie, Albert Tross, Wallace. And then you have an encounter, but there's an Aarakocra somewhere in the world that's a famous performer named Steven.
Ooh.
Yeah, Steven Seagal.
Ha.
He's not actually in the campaign. Anywho, with that out of the way, there's no left to say, but good night, everybody.
Bye.